What's up, everybody? I know it's not Monday. I'm sorry. It's Tuesday. I got busy yesterday. Didn't do my Mental Monday. So I'm going to do a Mental Monday about building toughness, something I was asked about by another coach. And it's maybe something I don't talk about a lot because I think, number one, it's a little bit simplistic. Number two, it's almost overemphasized in wrestling. Like, too much. And so, actually last night we brought this, I had my Mental Monday with my athletes and, same topic, but, presented a little differently, of course. And Coach Messenbrink even brought up the fact that, so many other academies they let the little kids wrestle a whole bunch of live, and it makes them tough, but they don't build any skills. And, that's something we don't really, and I'll talk about our process, we don't really worry about for a while because getting really tough, it kind of can be like flipping a switch a little bit, like a mental switch. If a kid really wants to be good, it's kind of easy to do. And so, when those other kids have been just using toughness to win and maybe they get a false sense of how good at wrestling they really are, but then building skills takes many years, right? So a lot of our kids spend years building skills, and then it is easy enough to flip the switch to say, hey, I'm just going to be a little tougher. I'm going to go as hard as necessary for as long as this wrestling match lasts so I don't lose the match because I don't want to lose, right? It's not a super complex thing. It's not something you got to spend a bunch of time learning. It's as simple as saying, hey, I'm going to do this. And that was kind of my argument to a lot of our kids last night is I'm going to give you guys different Mental Monday, but to them I said, so many of you guys are so dedicated, and there's some of you who are a little bit fearful of getting tired or really pushing yourself. And I watch you come in here all year round and work really, really, really hard. And are you really going to let something like that prevent you from getting wins? Like, that's silly. That's silly. You're spending hundreds of hours a year on, probably thousands of hours a year working on your craft, trying to be good at this, and you're going to let something small like the fear of getting tired prevent you from winning? Like, not a good trade-off. You should probably reconsider that one. So, let's do this. Building toughness. Let's kind of go through some steps. So obviously a little bit of it starts at home, right? How you treat your own kids. And, shoot, my son cried about having to drink a smoothie yesterday. So, damn it, got to get him a little tougher. But I think the first thing I see a lot of times when I see, little kids playing around is the response to pain is essentially built through reactions by parents. Meaning this, a kid falls or they bump their head on something, they almost immediately, you guys know this, they almost immediately look at their parent. And if their parent says, hey, you're fine, shake it off, they generally go on playing and they're happy. And if it's generally mom, sorry moms, it is you most of the time, oh, little Bobby, come here. And then essentially they learn that sympathy, right? They learn, oh, I like that sympathy from mom. Oh, that feels good. So I'm going to maybe even embellish when I get hurt potentially so I get more sympathy because I like that sympathy. Who doesn't like sympathy? I mean, shit, in 2024, lots of favor is curried by who can be the biggest victim, right? Who needs the most sympathy for the ills that is plaguing them in life. So I think that's probably a natural built-in human emotion. And so parents, I mean, this is something we always try to do with my kids, and I can't say they're the toughest ever. It maybe could have been a little more tight, but we'll talk about this later, but my plan is to get them tougher as they get older by presenting them to be challenging things. Is they fall and scrape their knee, hey dude, get up. It's fine, you scraped your knee. It's pain, it'll go away in a few minutes. Like, keep playing, do whatever you're doing. Bump your head, hey, shake it off, no big deal. Keep on moving. And my wife did a pretty good job at that. Also, she probably gives, again, women are a little more sympathetic than men. She probably gives a little more sympathy than I do. So, just having that, be at home, and obviously, you don't want to be too far to the one side, too cold, because you remember there's that experiment, was it Maslow? No, I'm thinking of the psychologist, Maslow, where, the monkeys had it was like a fake mom. One was soft and cuddly, and the other one was like made of metal. And the one that was, made of metal and showed no warmth, it really negatively impacted a lot of their life as they got older. So obviously we don't want to be too cold, right? We want our kids to know that we love them immensely and we want to care about them. but pain is pain. Pain will go away. Let's get a little bit tougher. Not a huge thing we need to deal with. Okay, so obviously that's at home. We can't control everyone's home life. We get them when they're, say, ninjas in training, which is our 5 through 9 year old group. At some academies it's split up. So first thing I would say is all of our games are combative in some way, shape, or form, because there are a lot of kids who are either encouraged not to be or just aren't combative at home, right? So whether it's Spidey and you're trying to tackle, whether it's mat battles, you're trying to push someone off, almost all of the games are combative in some way, shape, or form, so the kids are battling with each other, right? Because that is, in fact, building toughness. You're going to get a little bumps and bruises, that type of thing. We always try to tell them crying is, in fact, unacceptable, just like I try to tell my own children. Hey, this is wrestling. Sometimes you're going to get hurt a little bit. It's kind of tough, and deal with it. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to cry in class. Like, get a little tougher. And then we obviously also say, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. And that's just a fact of life, right? And in ninjas class, sometimes you're going to be the one doing the butt kicking. Sometimes you're going to be getting the butt kicking. And, there are certain kids who are exceptionally bad at taking the butt kicking. And obviously part of it could be a little bit of fear of, the pain of getting your butt kicked, because wrestling generally, that is the case. But it, could also be like embarrassment, or, if dad's over there giving the effing evil eye because they're getting put on their back. That could be another reason they're crying, which obviously we need to get them over that also. And maybe even try to, I try to tell parents if I see that going on, like, hey, dude, get out of here. Let the kid be in here. I don't need him to be worrying about you. This wrestling thing is hard enough without having him to look over at the parent every 3 seconds, right? He's trying to wrestle someone in front of him and do good, but then he's, every 3 seconds he's glancing over his parent. Like, it's hard enough, okay? So, for our ninjas, it's pretty simple. They're young. They don't have a deep understanding of stuff. Combative games, crying is unacceptable. Sometimes you hammer, sometimes you nail. That's kind of what we say. Every time we bring it in a class, sometimes it's great, and sometimes we'll say, hey man, you guys did a great job. Nobody cried in live today. Everyone battled really hard. I loved it. Like, we did a great job today. Did a really good job. We were really tough, and that's important. Okay, so now, and this is to what Coach Metzbrink's point was with our youth elite. We don't really grind them, like, almost at all. No really super long extended goes with the younger kids. Never try to make them do tons of sprints. We don't do sprints really ever. I think sprints are dumb, but beside the point. And a big philosophy there is just that I don't think they can quite totally mentally understand what exactly is needed of them. Man, you know what? This is one of the other things I said to my high school kids yesterday is, like, especially when you're younger, your dad or your coach can kind of force you to do things through fear or whatever. But there's some point when a boy becomes a man, right? When he says, I'm going to make my own decision. This isn't when they're 18. This is when they're, some kids 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Who knows when they're going to get there? And my dad's going to stop telling me what to do. Listen, I got there. I know if you're a man, you probably had this feeling also, like, I'm not listening to my dad. I'm going to do what I want to do. And then sometimes, honestly, there's like almost rebellion of, like, oh, my dad's telling me to do this. I'm going to do the opposite just because I don't want to be forced to do what he wants me to do. Right. And so being tough is a decision that's going to be made in your own mind. It's not going to be made by your coach. It's not going to be made by your partners. It's not going to be made by your dad. It's going to be made by you. And that's it. That's it. Okay, so we don't emphasize it a lot at the middle school levels. But as they start getting older and getting more competitive, so let's say 7th, 8th grade, it's very easy to point out in wrestling matches where their toughness or their lack of willingness to continue to wrestle hard cost them. It's very simple. And again, I always say this, it's not an I told you so. We never want to do I told you this, but I never want to do that. But it is pretty easy to say, like, hey man, it was really obvious you kind of let off the gas there in the third period, and that cost you big time, right? And you want to win. I mean, again, most of the kids are invested. Most kids want to win wrestling matches. Most kids don't show up to lose wrestling matches, right? They don't want to suck at this. So it's like, hey, if we want to be better at wrestling, want to win more wrestling matches, you got to be able to wrestle hard the whole time. Like, this is what we have to do. We have to compete at this level. And with some kids, That's all you need to say. That's it, right? And they get it and they start doing it. And that doesn't mean they're going to be perfect forever, right? They might have a relapse. And there's this other concept where I can't remember where I heard it now, but I love it and I use it semi-frequently. But the hardest thing you've ever done is the hardest thing you've ever done. And so if I'm just going to use numbers to make this simple, but if you can, the maximum effort you can possibly expend in a wrestling match is 100 units of energy, right? Well, some kids get to, say, 50 units of energy, and they say, oh, that's all I got. I'm done. Because they've never pushed themselves that far. They've never gone that far. They've never pushed that hard. And so you say, hey, man, you can do it. Let's go a little more. And so then they pushed it, 55. And the next time they get to 55, they think, this is all I got. No, you got more. You got more. Let's go. Then they get to 60, right? And they just keep pushing that wall back, right? Because they realize their body is capable of more. The kids who really want to win are going to do this. You say, you got more, let's go. And that means, I remember, I'm not going to out this guy, but there was one of my, he was a freshman athlete last year. And what's up, Yusuf? And he was in a match, and I wanted him to start figuring out how to use his cardio to wear people down, right? To win wrestling matches through using that. And he was really, he wrestled so hard for the first, I think we were at 90 seconds left in the match. So say first 4.5 minutes, he wrestled really, really hard. And I wanted to keep pushing. I wanted him to push himself, right? To push that wall back. I said, cut him. And he's like, he totally acted like he didn't hear me. I said his full name. I said, I know you freaking heard me. You cut him right now. He looked back and he was like, damn it all. And he cut him, right? And he kept wrestling hard the whole time because, again, this is an athlete who wants to be really successful. And sometimes they need a little push. So I pushed, right? And he understood, okay, I'm going to push a little harder. I understand what that feels like. And, I told my athletes yesterday, it's like I'm 40 years old and I still do this sometimes because I just want to make sure I'm not a wimp. But if you're going to really push yourself, so it hurts. It hurts. And I did this 500 calorie bike ride because Brian O'Toole challenged me. And it was like, I got a little nervous, got a few butterflies in my stomach because I knew I'm going to have to push so hard this is going to hurt. I'm going to go so hard that I'm going to be in a lot of pain by the end of this. And, it's obviously not something pleasant. Most people don't like causing themselves immense amounts of pain. But I said, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to push myself really freaking hard. So hard that by the end of it, it's going to hurt. Okay? And that's, that's something your athlete has to be willing. If they want to win, that's something they're going to be willing to do. Okay. So I'm going to 2 more things I'm going to tell you about. Number one is, and, I sometimes do this in a one-on-one with a kid, with an athlete, and I'll tell you how I think some coaches do it wrong, and I'll just tell you how I can flip it just a little bit. But you just you warm up for a few minutes, and then you shake hands and say, we're going to wrestle. We're going to wrestle. And we're just going to keep wrestling until you're so tired you can barely stand up. And what some coaches do is they almost they get their kids there, and they belittle them, and they're like, oh, you're so weak. You can't keep going. And they talk down to them. And then the athlete almost thinks it's a negative thing. But I get them there. I say, hey, you can go further. Let's go. Let's freaking do this. Keep battling. Keep battling. And then a lot of times they'll kind of get down on themselves, and you tap them again. Hey, you can do this. Let's battle. Tap them again, And so, again, push that wall back. Push their wall back of how far they can go so they can go as hard as they can. And, now you think of the guys AWA's put out, Mitchell Messerich. I don't think there's anyone who wrestles a harder pace in the NCAA. Keegan O'Toole wrestles really hard. Parker Kekai is, again, another, really high point scorer. Noel Mulvaney wrestles really hard. Bianchi's. We have guys who wrestle really, really hard. And this is one of the reasons why. And the last thing is, and this is kind of the whole premise of AWA, if you inspire them to be really elite, where they say, I want to be great. And again, I said this can't be your parents, can't be your coach, it's you. You want to be elite. If you inspire them to do that, they're going to do all the necessary things. And if that means getting really tired, that means you're really getting really, really tired. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. No big deal. We're going to do the things necessary to be great. So that's kind of our process, or my process. It's not going to come as natural to every single kid. Some kids, they get babied a little too much at home, and so you got to work them into that toughness. But if you can inspire them to be elite and you can make a connection with them, you can just keep pushing that wall back and pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. And essentially at some point they're going to be able to go as hard as necessary for, as long as the wrestling match takes to win. So that's what I got. I'm out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace.